welcome back to my channel. It has been a minute. I miss you guys so much, and I think the last time I made a video was like 2-3 months ago, but we have had some major life updates. So I have been holding off on making another video until I finished my first year of college and moved into my new apartment. And so finally, after a very long and annoying process, the whole housing thing was super annoying, so it took like a really long time to get moved in, but I'm finally here and settled. And I think I'm actually gonna do a like apartment tour slash perfume collection video just to kind of show the setup and everything, because I think it's really cute. Here, let me give you like a quick sneak peek. Actually, when I made my last video, it was still spring, and now it's the middle of summer, so I thought it would be appropriate to make a summer fragrances video. And I feel like the summertime is always kind of a weird place for me in terms of like perfume, because like I'm such a sweet gourmand fragrance lover, but we all know that those types of fragrances don't really work well in warmer weather. So the summer can be a little bit tricky when it comes to picking perfumes, and so today I wanted to go over the fragrances that I, as a gourmand lover myself, really love that still work in hot weather, perfumes that don't become too cloying or heavy or icky. Anyways, let's just get right into the list. So starting off, we have Angel Iced Star by Mugler. This, I believe, came out in 2021. It was a limited edition release, but I think you might still be able to get it on the Mugler website. I will leave a link if I can find that. So yeah, I'm not super sure about the availability of this fragrance, but pretty much just a pina colada in a bottle. And so it's usually pretty uncommon for designer perfumes to just smell like one specific thing, because usually designer fragrances are like a blend of like a lot of notes and just smell kind of like perfumey, and they don't really smell like any one specific thing. This fragrance right here literally just smells like a pina colada, and it doesn't really have that perfumey aspect that's really common in other designer fragrances. Basically just smells like pineapple, coconut, and some sweet notes. I want to say like pretty photographically identical to an actual pina colada, which for me is a huge plus because pina coladas are like one of my favorite drinks. And what I love about this is that it has this really sweet, yummy coconut note without smelling like sunscreen. There's nothing about this that's plasticky. I really just don't like that sunscreen waxy kind of smell. I think it's so repulsive for me. But yeah, none of that there. I would say in this fragrance it's more of a like juicy coconut water kind of note, but there is a very slight kind of creaminess to the fragrance, and I think that's what kind of makes up the base of that pina colada. It's predominantly a pineapple fragrance, so pretty unique. I feel like it really is quite rare for designer houses to have something that smells strictly gourmand. The reason why this fragrance is so good for the summer and just warmer weather in general is because even though it does have these really sweet, yummy notes, the pineapple and coconut give it this kind of juicy lightness that makes it really appropriate for warmer weather. I don't think that it turns sour or sweaty on my skin. Totally a go-to for me when I really want something gourmand, but it's also like 90 degrees out. Next up, we have a fragrance that I pretty recently picked up, and I finally got my hands on Finery's Magnetic Candy. And so if you've watched a couple videos back, I did mention that I was kind of interested in this fragrance, but I didn't have it at the time, but I finally picked it up because I mean, it's just a really good fragrance. What I really like about this fragrance is that it's definitely made to appeal to a gourmand lover audience. It has a very prominent cotton candy note that just gives it this really fluffy, powdery sweetness. But what makes Magnetic Candy work, in my opinion, year-round, but also in hotter weather, is the fact that it has this very juicy citrus pomelo note, and that citrus note just gives it this bright, tart freshness that really kind of grounds out the sweetness of the cotton candy. Don't get me wrong, it still is really sweet, and I feel like if you spray a lot of this, it can start to come off as like a Bath & Body Works body spray or like Aqualina Pink Sugar. So I would not really overspray this, but I think in moderation, you really get this delicious, juicy pomelo that blends in so nicely with that cotton candy, and it provides just an amazing kind of sweetness that really, you know, pleases the average gourmand lover, but also, you know, won't be obnoxious in warmer weather. So I would definitely check this one out if you haven't done so already. This is Magnetic Candy by Finery. Okay, and this next fragrance, I've been kind of debating whether or not I even wanted to include it in the video because I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it, but it's KAYALI Yum Pistachio Gelato 33. Really don't want to dwell on this fragrance for long because I feel like it was talked about so much like a few months ago, and I'm honestly so sick and tired of hearing about it. You know, I did want to include it on here because I do feel like it's something that you can wear during the summer, but it also has gourmand elements to it. So this fragrance opens up with a very like fresh, almost citrusy blast of like a tangy sweetness. Like I really don't even know what it comes from. Okay, so I personally don't really agree with the main accords that are listed on Fragrantica. I would add fresh, spicy, citrus, aromatic, green, balsamic to these main accords. I think that's a little more accurate, but yeah, I just wanted to add that. Because like the main notes listed are pistachio, gelato, hazelnut, sweet rum, whipped cream, marshmallow, and cotton candy. Literally nothing on that list smells like what you get in the beginning, which is this super fresh, almost kind of grassy. It's very green and almost a little bit earthy. It's just bizarre that you get that kind of like a fresh opening from a fragrance that's supposedly so gourmand. And like that's kind of the problem that I have with this fragrance, is that I feel like the marketing is really misleading. I feel like they just put a bunch of like buzzwords in the advertisement of this fragrance to make it sound like super delicious and as appealing as possible, even though like the actual fragrance itself is really not that gourmand. But I still will like acknowledge that like in the dry down, it definitely has more of a sugary kind of sweet cotton candy vibe going on. You definitely smell some of that cotton candy in the beginning as well, but again, it's mostly overshadowed by that green like freshness. But I think it's also that freshness that makes Pistachio Gelato 33 quite appropriate for the warmer weather, because it has a fresh element to it while still having the sweet notes at its base. So even though this isn't my favorite fragrance in the world, I would still recommend checking this out if you are looking for a fragrance that works in hotter weather but has a sweet gourmand-like quality to it. Next up is like one of my obsessions, honestly. I seriously never thought that I would like this fragrance as much as I do. It's Versace Dylan Purple Pour Femme. When I first heard about this fragrance and kind of watched a few videos on it, it really didn't sound like anything that I would like. But it actually is like one of my favorite fragrances at the moment, especially during the hotter weather. This isn't a gourmand fragrance, but the reason I'm including it in this list is because I just feel like there's something that's so sweet and still like yummy and juicy and delicious about it, even though it's not really like meant to be a gourmand fragrance. This is such a refreshing perfume. Honestly, the best way that I can describe it is that this is God is a Woman's older, more mature sister. And you mainly get that in its opening, which is where it has this really delicious, juicy pear. There's something about this like pear note that is so appealing to me because it just smells so clean and weirdly like juicy and delicious at the same time. Like it's just such a comforting scent for me. And so I feel like God is a Woman is more of a super sweet, like Jolly Rancher kind of pear, whereas this one is definitely a little bit darker. It's toned down on the sweetness. It's still really sweet though. It's definitely a fresher take. While God is a Woman is very like syrupy candy-like almost, this fragrance is very like kind of soapy and shampoo-y, and usually that kind of a vibe just doesn't resonate with me. But again, there's something about it that's so sweet and beautiful. It's so soft and delicate, but it's really clean and juicy and amazing. I am just loving this fragrance. I will say the performance of this fragrance is not the best, so that's definitely something that I would look out for. But other than that, I would totally recommend checking out this fragrance because I really am so obsessed with it. And that's Versace Dylan Purple Pour Femme. And next I'm going to talk about two fragrances in the Prada Candy line. We have the original Prada Candy and Prada Candy Sugar Pop, and both of these fragrances I think are very suitable for warmer weather. You really wouldn't expect the original Prada Candy to be a fragrance that you can wear during the summer. Like I feel like it's such like, it just makes so much more sense for it to be like a fall and winter fragrance, but this one totally works in hotter weather. And I think it's because Prada Candy isn't like a syrupy, sticky, sweet caramel vanilla. Rather, it's like an extremely light, fluffy, and powdery caramel kind of smell. It's so light and airy that I really don't see this as a fragrance that is going to be too cloying during the summer. And as for Prada Candy Sugar Pop, this one actually doesn't remind me of the original Prada Candy at all. Like, I think that they're quite different. It has like a slight subtle like powdery caramel note that's like reminiscent of the original Prada Candy, but they're still fundamentally very different. This is just a super bright, citrusy, sweet fragrance. Sugar Pop to me is very reminiscent of Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. So it's just this like super juicy, lemony, fresh, fruity scent. I really would not consider this fragrance to be a gourmand. In fact, I think like out of all of the Prada Candy flankers, this one is like the least gourmand just because of how fresh it is. But I would still definitely check it out because I feel like a gourmand lover could still really enjoy this fragrance, and it's totally appropriate for the summer just because it's so clean and refreshing and it's not gonna get obnoxious. So that's Prada Candy and Prada Candy Sugar Pop. The last fragrance on today's list, I just have to mention it, Dolce & Gabbana The Only One Intense. So I know I already included this in a spring fragrances video a while back, but I have to mention this one again because I feel like where I really fell in love with this fragrance was when I was wearing it in Hawaii over winter break, and I wore it in super warm weather. And I also brought this on vacation with me to Arizona where it was literally like 90+ degrees every day, and this still performed so amazingly. I mean, this is such a sweet fragrance. I don't understand why it doesn't work for me that well during like the fall and the winter, but during warmer weather, there's just something about this fragrance that is so deeply intoxicating to me. It seriously is a gourmand lover's dream, I feel like it's so delicious, and I think it's like that green apple note that gives it this tartness that makes it fresh enough to be appropriate in warm weather, but it also just has this super creamy, luxurious vanilla that gives it this amazing heavenly gourmand element, and I cannot get enough of this fragrance. But definitely be careful with overspraying because it is a very, very sweet, creamy kind of fragrance. But like for some reason, this just works so well in the hot weather for me that I had to include it in this video. That's Dolce & Gabbana The Only One Intense. That is my list of fragrances that I think gourmand lovers would really enjoy that also happen to work in the summer heat, which is, you know, something that's not usually characteristic of a super sweet, yummy, candy-like fragrance. Definitely let me know if you guys have any recommendations. I'm curious as to what you guys are wearing during this summer. I'm so glad to be back, and now that I am settled and I have my own place and not in school for the next couple months, I am definitely going to start uploading a lot more regularly. So I'm super excited to be back. I miss you guys so much, and I really, really appreciate all the support while I was gone, and I love you. I hope you're all well and having an amazing summer, and I will see you soon.